Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Please keep the discussions down now. We're going to get started. But before we do, I just want to make a public service announcement. We do have a live stream going on here tonight. Thank you, Dave, for coming out. Oh, Brian for coming out and doing a live stream. If anyone has any objections to being on a live stream or social media, please go see Brian and just let him know, or just raise your hand or something. We want to respect everyone's wishes, but we will...
I just want to pan the crowd and show the people watching the video that the house is full. Is anyone not okay with that? Okay.
Awesome, okay. Well, welcome everybody to the Landkeepers Town Hall, the second town hall. We had one in August and now we have one today. So appreciate you guys coming out and attending tonight. So a little bit of just housekeeping rules as before. Let's keep tonight as respectful as possible. You know, a great thing about Canada is that we're allowed to agree to disagree. We're in a free country where we do so respectfully. So we're going to have a question and answer period tonight. You know, if you don't agree with someone's response or an answer to a question, maybe just keep it up top. But let's stay respectful and let's not be belligerent by no means, okay? If you do have a cell phone, most people do, let's put it on, turn it off please, or at least put it on silent, much appreciated. And I would just like to welcome a special guest, Mr. Ian Payton. He is the MLA for Delta South. He's also the BC United Shadow Minister for Agriculture and Food. So I really appreciate you coming out tonight. Okay, fantastic. And just briefly going over the agenda for tonight. So after I finish up our introduction, we're going to move right into some presentations done by the Landkeepers volunteers. Then we're going to have a short break. We'll move into the question and answer period. And then we'll finish off with some issues the Landkeepers have that they're going to focus on for into the new year, for next year. So with all that said, thank you again for coming out tonight. And let's get started with some presentations. Whoever's first.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the second meeting at the Hub for Landkeepers. We want to bring you up to date of what we've been doing in the past few months to let you understand what progress we have made in protecting farmland for farmers, small, large, and landowners in general across British Columbia, and primarily started with Vancouver Island. I'd like to recognize all the volunteers and people that have helped us move this along and the participation of the farmers. And I'd like to recognize the legal team that we have, Carly Haynes and Ted Hanman from Cox & Taylor, retired lawyer Dick Nesbitt from Duncan participating in our project to save farmland. I would like you to pay very close attention to the presentation tonight with facts and figures that you will no doubt be surprised. So thank you very much for everybody attending. I appreciate the help and the participation and the volunteers, and I must tell you that we have just had 50 farmers from the interior join Landkeepers as of yesterday, and inquiries from Kamloops, Prince George, Vanderhoof, and Fort St. John, and the Okanagan that have been inquiring to join Landkeepers. So I think you can see we've started a large movement to deal with government overreach. So tell your friends, and thank you once again for coming. Thank you.
Sorry, he went to Arizona, so he deserved a little bit of break. So, before I start this presentation, I would like to thank all the volunteers of Landkeepers Society who were generous with their time and effort to make this presentation possible. Today we gathered here to hold a second discussion about the new information that became available in regards to the Cowichan Bay Estuary project. What started as a small local issue has become a major topic of discussion in the Cowichan Valley and in BC legislature. For those who are not familiar with the subject, I will give a brief history. On June 8, 2023, the news broke in the Cowichan Valley Citizen, presented by the manager of Nature Trust, Mr. Thomas Reed, who informed the public that $3 million project is going to be launched this summer to restore the Cowichan Bay Estuary. Similar article was printed later in Times Columnist. This was the first time we learned about the project. To have more details about the early days of Landkeepers Society, I would refer the audience to our first town hall, which is posted on the Society website. Cowichan Bay Estuary is the essential part of the Cowichan Valley heritage. The dikes were built in the mid-900s when the Dinsdale Farm was created. In 1985-1990, the Dinsdale Farm was sold to Nature Trust, and since about that time was farmed by Gerald Pullman. The condition of the contract was that the land would be farmed until 2040. It was the intention of Mrs. Dinsdale at the time of the sale that the lands remain available for farming until 2040, based on the documents in our possession and the memory of the Dinsdale family. The Nature Trust BC disputes that. The Nature Trust is responsible for the dike's maintenance. Who is Nature Trust? Nature Trust is an organization that owns 125,000 acres of land in British Columbia as conservation areas, tenures, easements that support sustainable agriculture and food production. The Nature Trust claims on their website estuaryresilience.ca. Estuary Resilience website outlines the project of Nature Trust, focusing on removing the dikes in the Cowichan Estuary and flooding the farmland with the seawater. The Landkeepers Society was created in response to the Nature Trust project, targeting the removal of the dikes and causing a chain of alarming consequences to both the farmland and the environment. First, I would like to address the environmental claims by the Nature Trust about how the dikes removal will alleviate the threat of climate change and rising sea levels. Since the time I first read the Estuary Resilience website, it has been updated a couple of times. The early version of the website claims that the sea level will rise by 28 centimeters in 2050 and by 76 centimeters from 2050 to 2100. The statement has been removed from the later version of the website, but it appears again in Mr. Reed's Zoom webinar on November 1st, 2023. So here, I hope you can see well. We can see again that on average, the sea levels will rise by 9 millimeters per year by 2050 and increase to 9.5 millimeters per year by 2100. Another assumption is that Mr. Reed makes is that Antarctic ice sheet will collapse by 2100. In this case, the sea level will rise by 141 centimeters, almost 1.5 meters. Of note, we don't know if the Antarctic ice sheet is going to collapse in the first place, or how it is relevant to our area, or by which mechanism demolition of the dikes is going to prevent the change of this cataclysmic magnitude. These details are omitted by Mr. Reed. It is important to note that the numbers on this slide are assumptions, estimates, and models, not facts. Another important point is that Mr. Reed does not share the source of this data, So we decided to look at the data in our area. Our research team looked at the website Tides and Currents from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and we obtained quite different numbers. According to NOAA, the relative sea level rising in Patricia Bay, which is in Saanich, will amount to 0.02 meters in 2050. And of course, this is not even taken into consideration the Antarctic ice sheet collapse. So this is the data that we got from NOAA, and this is the data of sea level rise that we get from Nature Trust. This is the graph that illustrates the previous slide. You can see that these measurements were taken in Patricia Bay, Canada, which is on the east side of the island, and these levels are by far more relevant to our area than the numbers that presented by Mr. Reed. It raises concern that if this estimate is off by that much, how can we trust the remainder of the data presented by Nature Trust? We're moving to the next claim that implies that the quality of water will improve and replacement of the farm with the marsh is anticipated to increase the shellfish population. In the course of the webinar, Mr. Reed and Ms. Grants have carefully alluded several times that in time, we can switch from traditional farming to the ancient farming practices. Growing oysters was mentioned in passing. None of the presenters committed to the specific times when harvesting of oysters or other shellfish will commence on the flooded farm. The slide also states that the flooding of the farm will enhance the filtering of the pollutants. This is raising some questions as well. First, proportionally, the Dinsdale farm is a minuscule area compared to the Cowichan Bay. So this claim is a pure speculation, unless Nature Trust is able to support it with the actual data. Second, it could be a better idea to reduce the pollution in the first place than try to clean it by destroying a beautiful, vibrant piece of productive farmland. For those of you planning to start harvesting shellfish on the new and improved Dinsdale farm, don't hold your breath. We decided to follow the link provided by website on this slide. This is the link, and the next slide will show what we found. As you can see, this area has been closed for all species of bivalve harvesting, and a small fraction of this area is Dinsdale Farm, here it is, and which is tiny compared to the bay. And as I said, there are better ways to reduce pollution. The fate of Maple Grove Park and the trails remains uncertain. There is an ongoing controversy about the fate of Maple Grove Park, and I have been asked more than once what is going to happen to the trails. There is a misconception in the public that the dikes will be breached to allow flooding, yet they're connected by bridges so they can still be used as trails. The reality is that the dikes will be destroyed completely and the area will be flattened and additional material added to create a slope to protect Cowichan Bay Road from flooding from tidal waters. So no more walking on the dikes, friends. While Mr. Reeder assures us that majestic maple trees will not be removed, at least at present, he does not mention that the park will be flooded with the seawater, which is not suitable for growing maples. Another big concern is the salt water intrusion. This is a quote from the article by Nature Trust's Jason Emery in the discourse in August 2023. It states that the saltwater intrusion is a threat to coastal agriculture. At present, the farm is protected by the dikes. Indeed, we share this concern with Mr. Emery about the saltwater intrusion into the Kid Well, which is a very important source of water in the Cowichan Bay. Unfortunately, logically, this situation would be only made worse rather than better by the flooding of the Dinsdale farm with seawater. This is the part of the summary of the report by Active Earth, the hydrogeology firm that we hired to provide an independent assessment. I would like you to pay attention to the paragraph C, which says the existing drainage pattern of the Coxsackie River floodwaters will be altered. There will be salt water intrusion in the paragraph E to the fresh groundwater that will impact the water quality of adjacent aquifers to a currently unknown extent. And the existing water supply wells located in the reaches of the saltwater intrusion impacts will be compromised. So what is the real reason for the dikes removal? This is another part from the same discourse article with Nature Trust's Jason Emery. He states that maintaining the dikes will cost more than $9 million. In this case, removal of the dikes will make perfect financial sense. The next slide will break it down. So according to Nature Trust, it is inferring that since the dikes could be damaged, as Mr. Emery said, and the water could flood the lands even with the dikes in place, and maintaining the dikes is more expensive than destroying them, and maintenance of the dikes around the Dinsdale farm is their responsibility. So Mr. Emery infers that breaking the dikes and flooding the farm is less expensive proposition than maintaining them. Why would Nature Trust spend $9 million to maintain the dikes if you could use $3 million of your tax money to destroy them and blame it all on rising sea levels? It is a question whether we would like to have the answer from the Nature Trust BC, especially since the project is funded by our money. After we analyze some, but not all by any means, environmental claims put forward by Nature Trust, we can now move on to the administrative issues, of which are many. And I'm asking you to pay attention because this situation is very confusing. One of the questions the website addresses is whether adjacent properties will be flooded. The website explicitly says no. The Landkeepers spoke with the owners of the properties across the Cow Bay Road, including Cow Bay Reserve, and the businesses along the Trans-Canada Highway, and we learned that none of these in-depth or extensive engineering reviews occurred on their properties. Generational farms in this area report seasonal flooding, which originates from the river and rainwater, not from the bay. Such flooding will become worse when the berm is constructed, which will prevent the floodwaters dissipating into the Dinsdale farm. In the webinar, Mr. Reed now calls the berm a gentle slope of material. But this does not change the fact that the floodwater will be prevented from flowing into the Dinsdale farm. While the Nature Trust are trying to convince us that flooding will not occur, homeowners have noticed a concerning change to their insurance policies. A new clause that was added this year states that insurance will not cover any damage caused by flooding as a result of a civil authority's intentional breach of dams, dikes, or levees. Please let this sink in. Considering the funding of the project, there is some evolution here as well. The earlier versions of the Estuary Resilience website specify Cowichan tribes through Aquatic Habitat Restoration Fund as a funder, but it does not appear in a later iteration. This raises the question whether or not Cowichan tribes participated in the funding of the project and who are the other project partners. There is always also an ongoing tale of the land removal from ALR. This situation is quite confusing as well. We have a correspondent from the ALC stating that the local authorities must submit an application in order for the land to be repurposed for the non-farm use. The application process is the responsibility of the CVRD. No such application has been submitted as far as we know. It is still unclear how Nature Trust is going to overcome this obstacle, but in the meantime, Landkeepers Society urge all farmers and landowners to send letters to the ALC asking to preserve the Deansdale farm as a farmland, which is a vital agricultural resource in Cowichan Valley. Nature Trust admits in a later version of their website that the majority of the land is within the ALR, as you can see before and after versions. As this letter explains, the application must be initiated by CVRD. Landkeepers have communication from the Area Director B, CR Acton, advising us that the project is not a CVRD matter. However, as we shall see later, Nature Trust has been in close communication with the CVRD for a long time. So the question remains whether it is or it is not. The continuing controversy about removing this farmland from the ALR seems to have no end. There are two potential applications which may be made to the ALC, which are distinct. One is a non-farm use application, which is what the ALC has said should be made based on the proposal and must be initiated by the CVRD. An exclusion application, which removes the land from the ALR completely. As far as we know, the ALC has not requested exclusion application based on the project, so here the Nature Trust is answering the question that nobody asks. So Landkeeper Society will continue to follow this development. Another question that Landkeepers would like to get an answer is how the local authorities were involved in the project. While this slide from the Estuary Resilience website is not mentioning the involvement of the CVRD or North Cowichan Municipality, both were involved as we found out later. Then our question is why the public was not aware of their involvement. This is an email from Area Director BCR Acton advising us that this is not a CVRD matter when she declined our invitation to attend our town hall. She referred us to MLA Sonia Firstinalco, unfortunately also declined our invitation. We have spoken to other area directors and they denied knowledge of the project until about a week prior to the June 8th Citizen article. However, Mr. Reed stated in the information session that Nature Trust has been engaging CVRD in the project since 2022 for trail management. In October, we received a Freedom of Information reply from CVRD which shows close communications between Nature Trust and CVRD for a long time, but only the latest version of the website indicates involvement of the CVRD. This email, as well as many others, was obtained by Landkeepers Society as a reply to our Freedom of Information request. This email is dated by May 25, 2022, and is between Thomas Reed and Jeff Moore from CVRD. Oh, sorry. I would like to read one quote from this letter. There are some project sensitivities that we need to work through before our planned project is made public. Hence my question as to who attends your meeting. These letters show that CVRD has been in ongoing communication with Nature Trust for a long time, but no information has been shared with the public due to the sensitivities of the project that Mr. Reed needed to work through. During all this time, CVRD did not consider the need to submit an application to ALC either for removal of this land from ALR or repurposing it for a non-farm use, or to hold public information sessions. As we all know, the public announcement was made more than a year after this email was written. And we think that public deserves to know what sensitivities of the project Mr. Reed is talking about. As we could see, although the CVRD was closely involved in the project, apparently area directors were not privy to it. Another puzzle that Landkeepers Society are trying to solve is whether the municipality of North Cowichan was involved in the project and to what extent. On their website, Nature Trust BC states that the municipality of North Cowichan reviewed and approved the project, while the North Cowichan denies their involvement. The reply to our Freedom of Information request by the municipality of North Cowichan states that North Cowichan is not a participant in the Cowichan Bay Estuary restoration project. The question remains whether reviewing and approving indicates participation, and again, why the public was not consulted. At this time, we have three entities that are not able to coordinate their story. Now, when we illuminated the complicated maze of conflicted statements from CVRD and North Cowichan and some of the Nature Trust environmental claims, we can move on and focus on the activity of Landkeepers Society. We have been busy. Since its founding this summer, Landkeepers have been informing the public, enabling advocacy for farmers and landowners, put together a research team, communicating with the local, provincial, and federal elected officials, reaching out to other concerned parties provincially, sent out numerous Freedom of Information requests. Since neither Nature Trust nor CVRD nor North Cowichan are keen on sharing information with the public, Landkeepers Society has assumed this responsibility and working tirelessly in this regard. So far, we distributed 4,000 pamphlets with information about the project. Our volunteers worked with visitors of the estuary. We created signs, probably many of you saw them. We held our first town hall, printed several articles in the Westward Independent, and engaged with the community in a Cowichan exhibition booth. We established our presence online and shared the updates. The Society reached out to elected officials. As you can see, most of them attended our first town hall. However, Sonia Firstinau, our Green MLA, and Sierra Acton, Area B Director, declined our invitation. MLA John Rusted presented an issue at the legislature question period, to which the NDP Minister of Agriculture denied any knowledge of the project, despite having signed off on the $1.5 million for its implementation. I'm going to play this exchange between Mr. Rusted and the Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, in the Cowichan Valley, the NDP is scheduled to destroy over 100 acres of Dinsdale farmland, taking it out of British Columbia's agricultural land reserve to create marsh. This is excellent quality, productive agricultural land that is currently used to grow food for people here in British Columbia. To the NDP Premier, why are you so eager to take land out of the agricultural land reserve to create a marsh while refusing to repurpose underutilized DLR land for more housing for everyday British Columbians who are facing a housing crisis so profound that it is driving working people into homelessness?
Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you. Thank you, Member, for the question. Mr. Speaker, farmland is precious to all of us in British Columbia. I am not familiar with this particular case, but I would like the member Excuse me? I have the floor. I would like the member to reach out to me after.
Members, please.
After this session, and we can discuss this fully, but I can tell you that we all need and appreciate the agricultural land. So yes, there's pressure on agricultural land reserve everywhere in British Columbia for a number of reasons, growth being one of them. But I would like to take this, if I could, sir, after session. Thank you.
Leader of the Fourth Party, supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, the ministers actually responded to the people on the issue on this and said that that land will be repurposed. I find it disturbing that that is a letter that came from the minister's office and the minister wasn't aware of what's going on that file. The reality, Mr. Speaker, of this is that there was actually a contract in place on this land when it was transferred to the Nature Trust. And that contract says, and I quote, "The purchaser warrants that the existing diking scheme around the perimeter of the property will not be materially altered or breached to allow uncontrolled flooding on the land. This warranty is to remain in effect for the term of 50 years, commencing December 15th, 1990, and running until December 15th, 2040. End quote. Not only has this government provided $1.5 million to the destruction of this property, but they're actually going to be breaching the contract that was put in place for this heritage land that is so critical in terms of providing agricultural benefits. So at a time when people are struggling to put food on the table, struggling to find housing, why does this government think that destroying farmland is appropriate?
Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, member, for the question. Mr. Speaker, I will take this question under notice. Thank you.
We will continue providing updates from the legislature as events unfold. So we have been creating systems to enable advocacy for farmers and landowners. All the work that has been done became possible thanks to our volunteers and donations to Landkeepers Society. We hired a law firm, Cox and Taylor, which has filed a petition for injunction and provides ongoing legal advice. We hired a hydrogeologist, Active Earth, to provide an independent assessment. The report has been provided to the lawyers, and you saw a part of it. We have a research team analyzing the factual material, and we're working with the independent media to create open communication. Focus going forward. The Landkeepers Society is an organization exclusively based on volunteers and represents farmers and landowners. Our goal is to become a province-wide grassroots organization providing a platform for the residents to have their concerns addressed in a meaningful way. As you could hear from Jack, we reached out to other farmers in Westwold, Kamloops, Vernon to incorporate their concerns into the society agenda, and we're also in a communication with the Prince George farmers. We are inviting all local farmers and landowners to join the society to make our voices heard. In the recent months, numerous other concerns have been raised by the farmers, and we have started researching the details and planning to focus on these concerns in the near future. As we stated before, the estuary project, which led to the creation of the societies, started as a small local problem. But this problem has been growing every day and runs much deeper than we could imagine. Therefore, it's the high time to unite and advocate for ourselves. The Society has provided formal letters to farmers and landowners across the province to be signed and sent to the ALC. We have these letters available here, and we invite all of you to sign them. I'm happy to introduce Adriana Richards and Joseph Enslow to share the information about the COPE and their newspaper, Westward Independent. The Society has been working in close cooperation with COPE, which is more focused on urban development, while Landkeepers Society focuses more closely on the rural problem. Thank you for your attention.
Sorry, sir. We're going to keep saving questions for afterwards. Just going to move to the vote if you don't mind. Thanks, sir.
Hello. I don't think I'm going to go over what COPE is too much because I would say most of you guys know who we are. Joseph and I started this 1 year ago after we ran for council. And when we were running for council, we found out how government works, local government works, which is very similar yet different to provincial and federal. We ended up finding out all the local plans, like the official community plans, the transportation plans, and the climate action energy plans. The reason these are important is because everything has to run through them. Specifically, the climate action energy plan is the number one, and every policy must run through that in North Cowichan and CBRD. So we just decided that we would become politically active, and we started the Citizens Oversight and Accountability Project, and we're just having our 1 year anniversary. And in that time, we have done lots, and we have also begun to network with other groups all across the province. I have people calling me from Gibson's, I have people calling me from the interior today, and so we've formed coalitions that are much more focused. We still focus on urban and rural, but we do a lot of urban stuff as well. So we're focused on plans that are coming forward, like all of us having to retrofit our homes within the next 3 years and things to that matter. We send in letters and do FOIAs, and we have lots of fun at council, so I thought I'd just show you a little snippet. It's that they're so familiar with us by this point. Yep. Alrighty. Yes, hi, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's Adriana. I'm speaking on behalf of COPE and its members.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to speak today on behalf of COPE. That's the Citizens Oversight and Accountability Project.
I'm speaking on behalf of COPE, a group of engaged citizens who have joined us under the expectation that we speak on their behalf against multiple current agendas and policies. Today, on behalf of COPE, I'd speak on item 7.2.
Thank you. Yeah, Joseph Benslow here, Lake Road, North Cowichan. So obviously I'm here to speak on 7.2. Hello. Good afternoon, Council. Joseph Benslow here, Lake Road, speaking here today on behalf of COPE and its members.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's Adriana from North Cowichan, speaking on behalf of the members of COPE.
3 minutes, you know the drill.
I do. Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Right. So, good afternoon, Council. Joseph Benslow here. Thank you. Yeah, Joseph Benslow here.
Mayor and Council, I'm speaking on item 5.1. So, yeah, it's fun. They actually joke that they haven't made name tags for our chairs that we show up here yet. But we also do lots of other things. We do freedom of information requests for local governments. We write letters to council, hold town halls, do man-on-the-street interviews. We upload all of our videos to our YouTube and our website so that there's, and it's not just with us, we actually take out snippets that our councillors say that people might actually be interested in. And then 6 months ago, we launched the newspaper that's at the back of the room. Reason being is we didn't see that there was any print media that actually showed the alternative voice to anything. And that was the reason that we started COPE, was because we wanted to actually be a stakeholder in the community, because currently all the stakeholders that municipalities speak with all seem to lean one way, and there doesn't seem to be a good balance. So we wanted to be that balance. So as the paper evolves, we've just totally redone it this month. We're super excited. We've been following and writing on all these issues since the very beginning. And in addition, you can go to cope.ca and you can sign up to receive emails. And when you do that, we'll let you know, hey, guess what? This meeting is upcoming and they're talking about the budget. Or CVRD is holding a meeting that might be important for you to show up to, because most people don't have time to sit around and read the agendas. So that's what Joe and I do for fun. And we also watch the meetings for fun, which most people don't want to do. The last final thing I just want to say was that I didn't really want to go into a lot, but at the last town hall, I went into depth into what the CVRD agriculture plan holds for your future. Just things like how North Cowichan stated that they will not reach their climate goals without 50% of the land being rewilded. We're not sure who's 50% of the land. Also, North Cowichan said that it will not reach its climate goals without eliminating all livestock. And seeing as North Cowichan has actually more farms than CVRD, that's a little startling. So anyway, you can actually go onto our website and you can scroll down and it just says CVRD Adriana's presentation, and then you can kind of look at what I've broken down about your agricultural plan. And I think that's about it from me. Yeah, that's about it. Now, Joe.
Hey everybody, Joseph Renzel here, speaking on behalf of Cope. I said that so many times, it's burned into my brain. So there's only really one little thing I wanted to throw out for the crowd. I think most people here know essentially what we're all doing here, whether it's Cope, or it's Westward Independent, or it's the Landkeepers. We're all essentially here trying to advocate on behalf of community, because most of us believe that maybe the government's doing, if I can say it, a pretty shit job of actually accomplishing that. And I'd like to draw one thing as a use case for anyone here who's wondering, some of this information seems a little out there. You know, it's can they really be doing that? Can they really be violating contracts? Can we really be hiding things from the general public? Do we really have to do FOIs to get to know everything? Can't we just ask our local elect? And that's exactly what I thought about a year ago when Adriana and I started Cope. I thought, why not just go to meetings, ask questions, we'll figure things out, we'll know exactly what's going on, we don't have to rely on, whatever it is, alternative media or side projects or FOIs or any of that nonsense. Let's just say that doing all those things is conspiracy theories, and let's just go talk to people. That's how we're going to do it, right? Well, we very quickly learned there's a reason why all those processes exist, and that's because we really do need them. And I'll give you a perfect use case for it. Recently, we've been speaking to North Cowichan about essentially a climate action energy plan. Whether or not it's North Cowichan or the CVRD or any other municipality out there, most municipalities have a climate action plan, because the entire country's agenda for the moment is how can we reduce greenhouse gases. It's a fair, argument to say, how do we be more green? Fair enough. North Cowichan said our commitment is going to be to remove 80% of greenhouse gas emissions. And no, it's not going to be by demoing buildings or revamping the entire landscape. It's to change the citizens and their behaviors. Effectively, you and you and you and you need to remove 80% of your greenhouse gas emissions. This is not a community goal, it's a personal, individualized goal. How North Cowichan intends on actually achieving that is literally through nickel and diming everybody. There are no gigantically huge agendas on the horizon. They're all very small incremental changes, such as what we had just seen when they updated the step code to ensure that all new homes need to be meeting a certain level of efficiency for heating, electricity, etc. That was done with zero consultation to the building community, people that own construction companies. If you happen to build something, you were not consulted. It was strictly put through as part of the Green Initiative. Now naturally, we had questions about that. Not so much pro-builder or pro-green, however that you want to look at it. We just stated, wouldn't it be great if you actually consulted with the people that will be affected by the changes that you're putting through? At least consult community, get some feedback, say something. When we approached Mayor Rob Douglas over the course, as you can see, many months, many weeks, can we give you some information? Can you tell us something? The mayor told us, and you'll find it in our latest edition of the Westward Independent, the mayor told us, if you don't like it, wait 3 years and vote someone else in. Yeah, you are very welcome to go to northcowichan.ca or our COPE YouTube page. Literally told us, if you don't like it, vote differently in 3 years. So for the next 3 years, as community starts to see all these changes, the building codes, the step codes, the agricultural changes, everything else, the mayor's urging the public to please shut your mouths, wait 3 years and vote differently, and then you can actually make a change. Now I say this because it's important that organizations like COPE and Landkeepers are able to survive under this regime. And yes, I will call it that, because essentially they're saying you have the platform to speak, but we will not hear you. So you get 3 minutes to speak, we'll all zone you out, and when you're done speaking, next speaker, and we're going to push through this agenda regardless. So when we started COPE about a year ago, I had no idea this would even be a thing. I didn't know government worked like that. I never thought I would hear a mayor tell me to go take a seat. I was pretty shocked, to be honest with you. But we're also very proud to have been, I'd say, the first voice to give Landkeepers a platform to be able to say and get the information out there. COPE, we were the first ones to hear from Jack, to hear from community, and say something sounds a little bit amiss, something seems a little off. We were happy to support that. We received a lot of public backlash in doing so. We had a lot of our far left woke community bashing us for the denying science, for all the other things that we've always heard always. But obviously that didn't affect us. We hear it all the time anyways. And we are happy to just continue to support the voice of community. And we would rather not have to have organizations like the Landkeepers need to hire lawyers for tens of thousands of dollars, get their own independent assessments. That is ridiculous. Our local governments should be easily able to advocate for the people, and we see that as no longer the case. And we are essentially ensuring that at least for the next 3 years, we will continue to support groups like this. We will continue to support town halls like this, with our newspaper, our YouTube, everything humanly possible to ensure that our local government is not shutting down community voices, which we have seen time and time again, literally every single week. If I'm honest with you, COPE shouldn't have to exist. Landkeepers shouldn't have to exist. We should be able to depend on our government. And to be blunt, we cannot. So we're very grateful and very happy that the entire community is rallying behind us, because rest assured, we do not qualify for any grants. We do not qualify for any kind of tax exemptions, unless we want to drive scooters and join on some kind of climate agenda. There is no funding for us, there is no help from us, and council essentially told us to shut up. So, back to the CVRD, I know that we are here now. I'd like to educate you on one more small piece before I hand things over. If you're wondering, maybe this is just a unique North Cowichan experience, and it won't affect you. It won't be out there. I'd like to let you know that the mayor of North Cowichan, Rob Douglas, within about 2 weeks of shutting us down from speaking, did their own seat shuffle and ensured that anybody who's slightly right-leaning has been removed from the CVRD board from North Cowichan. The mayor has injected in the far left folks that will support that agenda. North Cowichan has 4 seats in the CVRD. They are all now left-wing leaning people. And on top of that, sadly, another councillor even advocated in plain English and said, if we don't do this, we won't be able to actually influence the CVRD to the effect that we want to. So if we leave some of these right-leaning folks in there, we won't be as powerful to move the CVRD along. And again, yes, that is a video, and you can watch it, and it did come from North Cowichan. Factual information. The deck has been stacked. The future outlook is 3 more years of ignoring everything except for climate. And even if you happen to be a die-hard climate person, No agenda should be at 100% when every agenda hits 0. We need some balance, and our government appears to not be listening. So we're very happy to advocate for it. We're happy to be here. We're happy to publish and promote and speak and be out there. So thank you everybody for supporting COPE. Thank you for supporting Landkeepers. We couldn't do it without you.
Sorry, I forgot to mention this was, someone asked me to mention it, because it's tomorrow night. It's a speaker series called Everything is Connected, Ground, Water, Streams, Climate, and You. It's hosted by the Cowichan Watershed Board. It's presented by Tom Gleason, who's a hydrologist from UVic, I think it says here. It will be at the VIU Cowichan campus, Lecture Hall, 140. And that's at 6:30 p.m. The reason that you might be interested is they have stuff to do with this as well. And then on Tuesday, which I'll put out later, I'm actually going to be speaking on that coalition that I was telling you about across British Columbia about these people like Nature's Trust, which are NGOs. Nature Trust is has $177 million in assets. So these NGOs are actually coming in under the guise of saving an owl, saving a salmon, whatever it is, and this is how they're capturing land back. So there's a lot of myself and a few other people who are researching deeply into these NGOs. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for all those presentations. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break. We'll come back with the question and answer period. For anyone who's not very confident or wants to remain anonymous for a question, during the break, you can come see Ruth. She'll have a pen and paper. Feel free to write down your question. We'll address it anonymously. Till then, enjoy your break. Washrooms just down the hall here, and there's some water here, and we'll touch base soon. I want to begin with the town hall. Before we get to the question and answer period, I'm going to invite MLA Ian Payton up real quick. He's going to just quickly address some of the video we watched in the legislature. He was actually present, so he just wanted to expand on that exchange with the agriculture minister as well. So Ian, don't mind, sir.
Thanks for having me. I just want to step back and tell you that I kind of started working with this whole project back at the end of May when Jack McLeod got hold of me. And I think I talked to Jack at least twice a week the entire summer right up until this past week. So I'm very involved. I've done, I think, 4 videos now about the loss of this land. I go way back as a dairy farmer, but I go back as in the farm auction business as well. And I've done a lot of farm auctions over this way, including, I've known Gerald since probably 1982, or maybe even earlier. And I bought cows from Gerald, I've sold cows for Gerald, so Gerald and I go way back. And so then, in Victoria, we have a caucus of BC United. There's 28 of us, but there's John Rustad and another fellow that have created this little party of 2 people. And I like John, I get along fine with John, but he kind of beat me to the punch, and I was literally ready to do the exact same thing he did about a day or 2 later, but he beat me to the punch, which was good. So I sit right across in the legislature from the Minister of Agriculture, who knows, well, she has a degree in fine arts from the University of Victoria. Okay? That's your Minister of Agriculture. She knows virtually nothing about agriculture. She even, that was me heckling when she said, "Excuse me, I have the floor." That was me right across from her. I just about came out of my seat when she said, "I don't know anything about this project you're speaking of." So it was just absolutely mind-boggling. Sonia Furstenau sits 2 seats aside from me, and I'm getting gears from her, gears from other people going, "Ian, you don't understand this. The farmers in Cowichan don't understand. There's a lot of questions that they need to have asked. They don't understand, the reason why this is going to be a good thing." And, the fact that my dad was chairman of the Agricultural Land Commission at one time back in the end of the SOCRED days, and my family's totally into preserving farmland. How can anybody in their right mind think that flooding 100 and some odd acres of prime farmland with salt water could be a better idea than continuing to farm that land? So it's totally insane, but I'm just so happy to be a part of this. I still live on the farm that I was born and raised on in Delta. We have an 80-acre farm that I was dairy farming on, and it's right on the dike of Boundary Bay as well. So the last thing I ever want to see is somebody breaching the dike by my farm so that the ocean at Boundary Bay can come in and flood our farm. And Ruth knows all about that as well. And it's like old home week for me. I look out and here's an old friend of mine from Black Creek, and some buddies of his drove all the way down here to this meeting tonight. Terry Douglas. So thank you, guys. And I got to be in the legislature first thing tomorrow morning, so I took the ferry to Victoria, unpacked my suitcase, and drove up here to be at your meeting. So I'm happy to be here and happy to support you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Payton. And just one last announcement before we move into the questioning period. There was a quick error. Adriana mentioned the first budget meeting for North Cowichan is on Wednesday. It's actually on Tuesday. So Tuesday at 5 p.m. I just wanted to correct that. So awesome. Thanks so much for your patience. Let's move right into the question and answer period. I'm going to start with Shane first. Shane, if you want to come up to the microphone. I believe you had a question for Marina or for the Landkeepers volunteers.
Actually, I got an answer, but I have no question.
Okay, sure. If you want to use the microphone just there, if you don't mind, yeah, appreciate that. No, it's just not here.
Has anyone here, are they aware of Bill 31? Okay. What you saw up on the screen is nothing. What's coming your way is absolutely explosive. I just got this on my radar the other day, and I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. So if I can just take 1 minute to read off some of the details. It's been summarized by somebody who's looked deep into this bill. So, Provincial Bill 31. Here's some highlights. Section 36 allows the minister to suspend property rights under the guise of mitigating an emergency. It also allows for the warrantless entry under the same pretense. The minister is able to order that property, get this, be destroyed, including crops. And by this logic, the food supply would not be secure. Section 38 would give the government the power to restrict travel and movement, shut down businesses in various events. Section 82 says that the lieutenant governor and council can make retroactive orders. This would presumably legalize action that would previously have been illegal. Section 139 makes it clear that compliance is mandatory. You don't comply, you're going to jail or getting fined or whatever. Section 140 gives provincial administrators the power to ask for police enforcement. Section 141 outlines judicial remedies to obtain an injunction. Section 154 provides protection from legal proceedings for pretty much anyone involved in implementing the emergency management orders. They will not be held accountable. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
Anything we've seen before? Okay, so start educating yourselves on Bill 31, because what you just saw on the screen is nothing. They will come and do whatever they want to you, your farmland, your land in general, your property. Okay? If we don't motivate people or educate people and motivate them to get out there, start asking questions or doing something, then maybe they will get reelected because they've got the money and the NGOs behind them. They've got the media and these little newspapers and the word of mouth. We better start activating that, because we don't, we're done. Okay?
Absolutely correct. Shane, do you want to finish off the question?
I want to ask you a question about the dike. I've never been down there. Is it heavily treed? The area that they want to flood, is it heavily treed?
So let's get a Landkeepers volunteer just to stand up real quick and just answer that question, if I may. All right, Mr. Dinsdale, please.
No, it's just all farmland, flat.
Okay.
Pancake, topsoil 20, 30, 40 feet deep. And grow corn 8, 10 feet high. Okay? There's no rocks on the property of any kind. Okay? And it's like flat level, no rocks on the place. Topsoil 18, 20 feet deep. Just like Ian's land down there, right down in Boundary Bay. And you grow anything on it, and it doesn't need watering, it doesn't need anything. It's an iconic farm. They were farming until the 1900s. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up is because I spent a little bit of time up in northern Quebec and got to speak with the natives. And that was up in the Le Grand Dam area. So when they dam that area, all these trees and they became actually really toxic to the water. And the natives can't eat the fish. Even after all this time, it's still so toxic that there's cancers in the fish. Okay, so I don't know how this will impact on flooding that area and any, shellfish or whatever they want to reintroduce into that area, whether or not that will become toxic. So maybe something else to think about and consider for those who are. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate that question and statement for that. Yeah. You want to take this mic there now?
Yeah, the maple trees there are there, and if they put the dike in where they're talking, the floodwaters come from the Coast Island, come from the highway side, flood across to the ocean, and dissipate over the land. So the maple trees generally just see fresh water. But if they take the dikes and they remove them, then there's going to come up the floodwaters from the ocean, especially at Christmas time and high tides and river flow, going to flow right up towards maple trees. Will it get to the maple trees? I don't think so, but it could. And those trees are like I don't know how old they are, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Wow.
Thanks, sir. Okay, you want to follow questions, please?
So, Mr. Payton, are you familiar with Bill 31? So Bill 31 has to do with emergencies. I don't know the full extent of it. Okay, I've just started to get into it. But it has to do with emergencies and how they can basically do what they want under the guise of an emergency. And one of those emergencies, which apparently is in the legislation, is climate change. So, forest fires, droughts, you gotta save the salmon, we're gonna shut off your water, the water police, all of that stuff, okay? So I'm not sure of all the details, but apparently it's
yeah, it was called the Emergency Management Act, and we have people that are critics, just like I'm a critic for agriculture, we have critics for all that kind of stuff. So we debated it, we voted against it, against the bill. It's passed. I mean, there's 57 NDP and there's only 28 of us, so we can't want to vote on every bill that comes forward. But I do want to say that I've traveled, I love my role as agriculture critic because I get to go all over the province in the summer months, and I've been to the East Kootenays, Cranbrook, there's a lot of farming up that way. I've been to Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, Chetwynd, I've been over here in Vancouver Island, all over the Fraser Valley, and I went to a meeting at 9 a.m. on a long weekend in Westwold at the community hall about the NLC police coming in and telling farmers to shut down their irrigation pivot reels and irrigation reels and whatnot, telling farmers that are dairy farmers in the Fraser Valley and Vancouver Island to reduce your water usage by 50%. Well, you know, a lactating cow in the middle of summer is giving 100 liters of milk a day, is drinking over 100 liters of water a day. How do you tell a 200 head dairy herd to quit, you know, drinking 50% of the water? So there's a lot of things that they just don't get. There just isn't common sense, and Bill 31 is certainly one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Payton, for answering that question. Also, anyone else with questions, please line up in front of the microphone. wanted to address all of them. And I just also want to make a quick comment as well. It's good that we have discussions, but if we could just maybe word our questions in more of a question type format. Again, we just, so we can direct the answer from either a volunteer or from the appropriate person. So, Mr. Corey.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks for organizing everyone. So I don't have a question because the answer is political. You need to get politically involved to take out this government who's destroying this province. That's the bottom line. And there's people here that are willing to do that. But as chair of the Economic Development Committee and a two-term council in North Cowichan, I can assure you that anything that had to do with the ALR got full public scrutiny. And I can tell you, there were lands that were full of rocks, completely unable to farm, or just, by the experts themselves telling us this land is unworkable. Even that land we were unable to get out of the ALR for some key development projects. So it's just a total sham that they've taken this property out of the ALR without public consultation and goes complete contrary to the principles of the ALR and what the NDP has been promoting all this time with the protections that they've built into the ALR and the ALC. So what they're doing is a complete sham, and I applaud the efforts to put a spotlight on this and raise awareness. Thank you.
I'm with the Landkeepers, and I was part of the organizing team, and I'd just like to clarify that if you have a story that you want to tell us about something that's happening to you on your property, please feel free without expecting it to be a question, because we're trying to gather concerns about things that are happening, and they're not happening to each person the same. For example, I was just speaking to someone about his issues around a gas station owner, about having an onerous new process about selling farm gas. And this is happening in so many different areas, so please feel free to tell us what's happened, and this is how we will actually create our action items for the coming year. Now, on behalf of Katie and John Ehrlich, they could not be here tonight, but she asked me to read this. And this summer they had issues with the water concerns, and so I'm just reading what she said. As you all know, this summer many farmers have had experiences with the Water Sustainability Act and the water licenses. The Water Sustainability Act is a piece of legislation that came into force on February 29, 2016, replacing the Water Act of 1909. The purpose of the Act is to modernize water management in the province, addressing emerging water challenges and promote the sustainable use of water resources. The Act not only includes water licenses, but the Act emphasizes the importance of public engagement and collaboration in water management decisions. It includes provisions for involving local communities, Indigenous peoples, and other water users in the development and implementation of water plans. The first BC collaborative group under the WSA first met in the beginning of November 2023, right here at the hub. Katie Ehrlich and several other farmers, such as Ben Vanden Dunban, Keith Granbois, and Amy Fro, are part of this collaborative group. The Collaborative Community Advisory Table will give advice to decision makers on the future of how water and land is managed on the Cook-Silo watershed throughout a watershed sustainability plan. It is made up of locals with diverse backgrounds from agriculture, forestry, neighborhood associations, recreation, public health, local government, and environment conservation groups. It will meet regularly over the next 3 years to help develop a plan for the long term. Planning will involve reviewing the best available data and information to evaluate options to address water scarcity, flooding, cultural and environmental priorities, and food security. Community input will be asked for throughout the process and carefully considered by the province and Cowichan tribes who are co-leading this effort. Ask those who sit on the advisory table to tell you more. Check out the website and feel free to reach out to the staff managing the initiative. This process will take time, but it's unique in BC and has the exciting potential to really do something different. Katie has left contact information, and she says please do not hesitate to contact her if you have any questions or comments. So you can contact her through the Landkeepers, and it's good to know we have a friend that's sitting at that table. So that's her letter. And the other thing is I have the letters that are going to go to the Agricultural Land Reserve, asking them to do the right thing. And they were drafted and written up by someone else, not us, and run by the lawyers. But it does say that you're a bona fide farmer in the letter, but you can just cross that out. We have a goal of getting 1,000 letters out, and we're well on our way, and it's anybody with a concern about what's happening. So just strike that out, and then there won't be any liability, because the concerns, as you read through the letter, involve all of our concerns. So thanks. Come and get me if you want a letter. I'll pass them to you at the end of the meeting. Okay, thanks.
Awesome, thanks, Susan. So what I'm going to do, Joyce, before you say your question, I'm just going to angle this over here, where we don't really have much of a panel. I feel like everyone's talking to me directly. I want everyone to be involved.
Thank you, Charles, and for the great job you're all doing. So I'm Joyce Benson, and some of you know me in different capacities. I did sit on Municipal Council at North Cowichan from the end of 2014 to the end of 2018. I also was the concrete lady. I sold ready-mix concrete for SureSpan for 11 years. And during that time, the reason I mention that, I have met so many people in our region, because my area was from Ladysmith down to the Malahat and out to Lake Cowichan. What I also learned was how many people's lands and plans and dreams were being impacted by local government. Never was it as bad as it has become now, and it's really scary. But I met and learned a lot of people's situations and stories, and that's why I've become so passionate about wanting to help people. So my husband and I just happen to own the front 3 acres of the Dinsdale farm, right beside, on Cowichan Bay Road, right beside the Coxsala River and Bridge, near the Robert Service Cairn. So we've got the front barn with the big red roof and the small buildings. And so yes, this impacts many of us. And I have a quick question. I'm wondering how many people feel that they will be impacted by this change, this destruction of the Cowichan Bay Estuary. Hands up. Anybody feel like they might be impacted? Wow. I had a sense that they were all, front and center. Here's my question. Why in all of this sort of reclaiming the Cowichan Bay Estuary to make it a wonderful seafood, sea life habitat, are the questions not being asked, what the flip is going on with the sewage outfall of the Cowichan River Joint Utility Board? Question of what? They will never have healthy seafood in that area again until they've done something with the sewage outfall, which, by the way, is supplied by North Cowichan, City of Duncan, some of the Cowichan tribes, some of the areas of the CVRD. It's huge, and if you notice everything that's being built right now, guess where all the sewer's going? The hospital, all of it, folks. I never hear that being mentioned in Nature's Trust or Ducks Unlimited's story. So right off the get-go, any politician's responsibility, Alistair McGregor for number one, to clean up the mess in the sewage lagoon outfall. And having sat on North Cowichan Council, which is one of the reasons I mentioned it, I sat at some of the Joint Utility Board, I was on the committee for a year or two or whatever, to hear sort of the plans and proposal. The only solution they've come up with is, oh, we're gonna, as I say to Mayor Lefebvre, oh, you're gonna pipe the poop to and through Cowichan Bay and out to Satellite Channel. So their proposal is to ship the ship, excuse me, but once it's so-called been treated in the Cowichan River by Trunk Road and Sioux Helen Road, that's where our sewage lagoons are, and run it down our Cowichan River. Why do you think people don't swim downriver anymore? They want to run pipes, and Cowichan Tribes has not yet given them any permission to run it through their lands, run pipes out and across West Cam terminals. I don't think they have their permission yet either, but all the way out to Satellite Channel. And I say, why would that be? Is it better flushing? What are you doing? And I said, by the way, there's sea life out there too. So that to me is the biggest issue going on here. Like, ignore it,
so Joyce,
deal with it.
I'll wrap up your question. No, it's all good. It's a good question.
Yeah, like,
I just wanted
wanted
to see if anyone from the Landkeepers wanted to address that. Is that a concern
Thank
possibly into the new year that you guys will be tackling? Any information? Mr. Bogdan? No? Ruth, did you want to? It's on the list.
Okay,
Perfect.
that's huge. And one other thing is, Alistair McGregor, our so-called progressive MP representative, put out a brochure months ago, big fancy one, it had to cost a lot of bucks. It went out in the newspaper, and it was to eliminate freighters in the Salish Sea because, gee, they affect the sea life and they might, with their anchors and stuff, so that pipe would have trouble. But here's my question. Alistair, you're our federal representative. What are you doing about the sewage outfall? What are you doing to remove it and get it off our flippin' river and out of our bay? So he thinks the freighters should go, and then what's he do? He gets 3 testimonials from chiefs, one previous chief, Chief Chip Seymour, and 2 other chiefs, saying how they really like to have their sea life back and stuff. And again, I'm saying, quit playing the game, man. Do your job and deal with the issues, and it's the shit. Thanks.
Oh, good. Good thing I have a loud voice. Okay, thanks, Joyce, for your questions and some statements. One follow-up from myself on that is I highly encourage you to write a letter to Mr. McGregor. And when you do, please send it to me. Because I like
Doesn't answer.
Awesome.
He never answers.
This is when you,
I put it on Facebook on his page.
there we go. That's big and social. Perfect, perfect.
And then you said he was a Marxist. That's awesome.
Okay, we'll shut down comments there, but thank you for that. Awesome. On to the next question, please.
Thank you very much, Joyce, because this is partly what I want to talk about as well. My name is Marilyn Welland. I'm born and raised here in the Cowichan Valley. Grew up just up the hill from Cowichan Bay on Telegraph Road, and actually part of our old family farm is now part of the Pullman farm being farmed. So yeah, lots of connections. I got into a conversation one evening with a gentleman completely by coincidence. Is related to the mayor, and we got into a conversation before you knew who he was. But one of his main criticisms of the fields, which I knew the Pullmans, I knew the Dinsdales, I went to school with Keith, and I would really like to know the history of that piece of property, because it goes back a long way. It was the Cowichan Bay Meat Market before the Dinsdales were there. But the criticism of the agricultural use, let's face it, one of the things when you're running 200 head of cattle is you've got a lot of manure that needs to be spread. And manure is spread on land, and that's one of the reasons why they need a lot of land, is to get rid of the manure. And that is one of the criticisms that I have heard, and I'm really just starting to realize what an amazingly large issue this is, and how wonderful people that are involved. So I don't know if it's just part of the issue, and part of it is the human shit, and part of it is the bovine shit, and it's like dealing with that in a large way. And there are, perhaps it can lead into something else, some kind of a drying and packaging and selling and business sense.
We're gonna wrap it up with a question. I think we have some answers, but let's give.
Okay, does anybody have any comment on that?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I know the history well. I've been there 50 years. So my understanding of where that farm started, in the early 1900s it was farmed, okay, and even in the 1890s I believe, because it was such a warm climate, obviously the Cowichan was. Okay, so obviously it's a warm climate, and they're growing vegetables to support Victoria, okay, and that's how Cowichan started farming, in such good land. And then with the actual fences where the dikes were originally were right out to where the docks are. Because if you still went there today, you'd see the fence posts that were put in, I don't know, 50, 75 years ago. And then it started out, and then it got into a seed farm, and Corfields had it, and then they were in there 1910, 1919. And they were growing seed farm. Now, I'm not exactly sure what seeds were grown there, but obviously it was something to do with food for Victoria, because that was where most of the food was going. So then it went on, and then there's a gap there I'm not sure about. And then in about the 50s, a guy named logger named Teddy Robson. Anybody know Teddy Robson? Okay. He bought the place, and he had a beef operation going, and he'd raise beef and sell the calves off that. So he was running that for about, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years, something like that. And then it was sold to a logging company called H. Rothel Limited, and they were for an investment, and they needed a farm manager. My dad went there and got hired on as a farm manager for H. Rothel. And we moved there, and that would be about 65, 64. And when we went there, okay, he couldn't make any money out of it. And so my dad was managing it. So my dad bought the place, big mortgage. I had to laugh. He borrowed $200,000, and he thought he just borrowed the world for the farm back then. And that would be 1965. And then he started raising Angus cattle, and he raised Angus cattle right on through until he died in 1882. And in the peak of the operation, we had about 170 cows there, on 170 or 200 acres. And Ian would speak to what land that is, if that's 1-to-1 almost, which is unbelievable. Okay, your land's the same stuff. And so that was the way it went like that. And then my dad died in May of 1982, okay, and my mom was left with the farm, and that's how this all developed, because she was stuck with a situation where she had a family to raise, still some kids at home, okay, a big mortgage, and nobody to run the farm. So the farm was all liquidated, and the cattle, most of the cattle went to New York State. Because if you didn't know, my dad was one of the leading Angus breeders in Canada, registered Aberdeen Angus, and so they all got sold. Not all of them, but a lot of them went, my understanding was, to New York State under auction. And that got my mom by for a little while, and then she had to do something because she couldn't pay the bills. So she had a couple of small leases to some other farmers. So I guess eventually one of the people there, a guy named Dave Hislop, who had sold some land to Nature Trust, and he is on the Clem Bridge. He had a piece of land there at the Clem Bridge Affinity House. You know, anybody seen that on the road? Okay. Anyways, he knew Lindsay Jones, who was a Nature Trust guy, and he said, well, look, we can maybe sell that to Mrs. D. Okay, and so, or Mrs. D. And so, anyways, they made an offer. And where the sad part of my mom was a single woman with family at home, mortgage and dikes to repair, no money. Okay, and so she was up against it. So she had no choice but to sell. And I think that it was a little unfair, and that I believe back then they didn't even have third-party legal advice. So my mom sat at home by herself to make a decision. So she had to sign her name. That's not spoke about, right? So that's where it went. And then I sat at the kitchen. I was at university at the time, and I went there and said, well, Mom, you got no choice. You got to sign it. Okay, so she signed the deal, and even when afterwards, as she signed it, I wasn't even aware of. I don't think she even spoke to the rest of us because she didn't know she was ashamed to have to sell it. And that's where it been now. So I left the farm, and then it got broken up, and then there was a part of it with Barnes Armory. Joyce is now. Okay, Joyce down there. Yeah, she's down there. There were two pieces of land there that were commercial property. One being the butcher shop, another being the apartment block. And then my dad was the farm there. He used to rent the Cowichan Bay space for Cowichan Bay butcher shop, which somebody asked about there. So that went on for a long time. But eventually the rules changed, and they just couldn't do it anymore. Like, you have to renovate, you have to fix up. The rules were so stiff that you just couldn't do it anymore. So that's how it all leads up to the being sold to Nature Trust. Okay, and my mom didn't want to keep it as a farm and all that kind of stuff. And how it ever got beyond that, I have no idea. There were backroom deals going on, I think, but I have no idea how that all went on. So that's the history of it. It's short and sweet, best I can do anyways. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Denzel. Appreciate the question.
Try to answer this lady's question in a practical way.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just keep it a little time sensitive.
Yeah, I'll keep it short here.
Please.
No BS, right?
Yeah, right to the point. Like it.
So I do spread manure for a living, and there are practices that you can over manure, you can have leaching, and you're concerned about what to do. You know, they might be concerned about over manuring or something like that. But the main ingredients in manure is will build up the soil, one, the humus in it, and the other main ingredient that feeds the crops is nitrogen, which is very volatile. If you spread manure in the middle of winter, it's going to run away. A lot of that nitrogen ends up in the waterways. That's what we want to avoid, okay? And so one of the things I brought up last time we were here is the growing season. Our biggest growing season is, you know, in from April through to probably September, depending if we have an Indian summer or not. But I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you walk a field right now, it's still growing. We're in November. My wife and I walk our field every morning if we can. It's still growing, and there's young grass coming up that my brother overseeded. Beautiful young stuff coming up, still growing now in this valley. Okay, so the thing is, you want to utilize your manure through the main growing season, and you don't want to spread manure in the winter when it's going to go in the ditch. No farmer does that anymore. We used to, even have no storage and stuff like that. But okay, so the thing I brought up last time is that you want to spread your manure and let the crop use it. And that's when you won't get runoff. So it's not a concern for smart farmers, you know. And I also brought up the fact that I slave foot manure, so you can do it in the summer, not burn the grass, get more nutrients into the soil, use it better, use less chemical fertilizer, which is good. But the thing that this water conservation problem that the government does to farmers is when the grass is growing, you got the heat units, and you can grow grass like gangbusters, and you want to put that manure on there, you kind of can't do it if you don't have water to soak it in. And they cut the water off just when you need it to soak the manure in to get a good crop and be efficient. Okay, so the government knows nothing about efficiency. This lady who's our agricultural rep, you know, she might be fine at art, but we got to have some common sense here. So that's just hopefully answering your question a little bit broadly. You know, we don't pack up manure and haul it a long ways. It costs too much. You just utilize it well in your area. And we need land to do that.
Take another question, please. We're approaching the end of the town hall as well, so let's say we can be a little more time sensitive with our questions.
It's all important. Thank you very much. So I had the privilege of moving into Mrs. Dinsdale's home when she moved out in September 1993 and lived there for 5 years and was so impressed with not only the maple trees but the birds around there. I mean, that was just an exciting time. My real question here is, who in our landskeeper group is anybody going after the Circa gang, the Circus? Cowichan Estuary Restoration Conservation Association. The chair is Gut Scherholz. He lives on Knipsen Road. He's originally from Germany, and he has been going after cleaning out and clearing out the Cowichan Bay Estuary for well over 10 years. I've attended events that he has spoken at VIU in different places. How nice it'll be when Western Forest Products Mill is gone and out of there. When they were downzoning West Can terminals in 2016-17, he had his whole gang going after trying to eliminate Western stevedoring and Pacific Industrial Marine as industry in the bay. Loriana DiNardo, the area director at the time, she calls it's Cowichan Bay, the working bay. So there was a lot of fight going on at about that time, and Goetz lives on G-O-E-T-Z, Scherholz, lives on Knipsen Road by Mayor Rob Douglas. They're friends and neighbors, and that's the Circa gang. And that's who's behind the destruction of our estuary. I can almost promise you, guarantee you. So what is being done to go after them? Because you'll see the name Circa pop up in different parts of Nature Trust and stuff. So he's the initiator behind this. He wants industry gone, he wants farmland gone, and while you're at it, why not just destroy the bird sanctuary and the wildlife sanctuary too? That's the enemy, folks, but I'm saying, what are we doing about him?
So anyone from Landkeepers wants to address this question? Ruth?
And he knows that I am.
Even if it's broad.
Sorry, it sounds quite controversial, but his wife was the mayor.
I know that we're aware Landkeepers is well aware, and correspondence that was provided to us by someone that was part of that project at one time, it's all been provided to the lawyers. It's all part of the building the case. So yes, it's been addressed as much as we can address it, and it's in the lawyers' hands now.
Thank you very much.
When you're ready for your question.
Yeah, quick comment. First, you mentioned food security, and it's really important that we talk about food sovereignty, which is the right to grow our own food. Food security hands off all responsibility to the district. Now, thank you. My question is around the idea of by design. We all know a lot of this is by design. It's global. I got curious about Nature's Trust. And I went and I pulled up their financial statement and I looked at who their funders were, and there was a foundation, I think it's in Vancouver. Okay, let's go there, and I go through who's on the board, who's the executive, and there is a Chief Justice Hinkleman. Does anybody recognize that name from the COVID cases that have been just tossed, right? So my question, I don't know if it's to Landkeepers or to COPE or both, is are you doing a stakeholders map? This is not just a judge, this is a Chief Justice, and mapping out who you're up against and who's tied to who, because that's so important to be successful.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, from COPE's point of view, for the moment, our resources are pretty much just Vancouver Island. We go from, say, like Nanaimo to Shawnigan. So for our resources for the moment, that's our chief priority. But we are looking for anyone who can kind of branch us further out. So if this is something that we can look into, maybe join a group, partnership, always down for that.
Yeah, I'd say anything like that you can send to me, because we do actually work on researching all of these, like I said, these NGOs and everyone that is actually steering this. It's not our local politicians. This is all above them. It's UBCM, it's NGOs, and so yes, we're trying to dig into all that and see what kind of FOIAs we can do with those guys.
Perfect, thanks guys. Before I get to your question, sir, actually it's a good way for me to segue into a written question I have up here. So we all know from our first town hall that into the removal of the dikes, there's a $3 million government grant, 1.5 from the provincial, 1.5 from the federal. So we all know where the money's coming from, the big bucks come from the government. So if only we had a money printing machine, right? Awesome, so that goes into our written question then. Maybe Ruth or someone from Landkeepers can comment on the financial health of COPE and Landkeepers, where we are grassroots, or the organizations are grassroots. This person, this individual, just wanted to know kind of what the health is like for finances. Does anyone want to comment on that by any chance? Ruth? Joe? Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of COPE's finances, we are all funded by donations, and the Westward Independent is like a fully functioning newspaper, so we sell ads, we do promotions as well. So we are trying to bring in revenue by offering a service and not always just asking for donations or anything. So we are trying to provide as much value to the public as possible. In terms of our current health, COPE is here to stay for sure. Months of coffers we currently have. We're always looking for ways to kind of minimize things. Our overhead is incredibly light because honestly, Adriana and I kind of run everything. I'm the techie nerd. Everything that you see, whether it's a website or a video or anything digital, every piece of artwork I make personally, so we pay absolutely nothing for that, so that's a huge resource for us. Adriana is our PR human resource type person. She knows everybody and almost everything and every person, so we never pay for consultants or anything. So we run as lean as a business possibly could run.
So it's same is about Landkeepers. We run on volunteers and donations. The only our expenses are for our lawyers and for a hydrogeology firm. And this is one of the reasons that we want to attract more farmers, that we actually can help them and we can advocate on their behalf, and they can donate the money to the Landkeepers. And instead of defending one person at a time or one farm at a time, we can connect all people that are affected by the same problem, donating to the Landkeepers. And with the infrastructure that we have, we managed to create over the last several months, we can actually help, and it will be much cheaper than, less expensive than fighting these issues one person at a time. Now, Aaron is our treasurer, and he can report about our finances.
These things never go on for me.
Yeah.
So on the note of what Marina said, and as you've seen, we've done a lot of work, FOIAs, lawyers, hydrogeologists, none of these professionals are cheap. So a lot of dollars have gone out. We are obviously fully volunteer on the rest of the side of these things, but we are funded by donation. So we would, I'll put a pitch out there just for any further donations to Landkeepers directly, or we have a crowdfunding campaign with Gibson Go out at the front door there. But any donation helps, as we do expect these things to continue. The case has been built, but the timeline for when this case, when the injunction, when everything will be heard, is currently unknown. So this will continue for a while longer. I hope that addresses the question.
That's great. Thank you, Aaron. Much appreciated.
So I'm Robert Thompson. I am aware of the 3-minute limit. I'm interested in water, and I sat a night course at the university in Victoria 30 years ago when they talked about the sewage in Victoria. And they'd done something interesting there. They'd done something what they call source control. So they'd taken all the heavy metals and silver and chromium and ugly stuff from the EVIC labs where I was a student then, and they actually not put that in the sewage stream. So one of the things that happens here, and you have to worry about it, is the things like glyphosate, otherwise known as Roundup, which are thrown in quantity, I've been informed, on some of the growing land, particularly the land adjacent to the Cowichan Estuary. So you're not going to get good shellfish from there for some time. The oceanography of Satellite Inlet is interesting, satellite channel. We have a tidal flushing routine, so it's not absolutely stupid to go in there. It's just not going to go forever, and the Victoria people spent $500 million. Getting back to our official community plan, we actually had a pretty good lecture from retired CBRD engineer Brian Dennison. And there's another thing other than the manure, which in regenerative farming is well used, you don't need to throw it away. There is a landfill on Cowichan Road, which is apparently pretty poisonous, pretty toxic. Brian Dennison knows about it, and went around to Cowichan Tribes, talked to one of the functionaries there, and Larry Seymour was probably not going to get back to me because it's actually on the tribe's land. They've been digging through water analysis and assessments and things from the provincial government. We don't get a drug problem. We're not California. We're not going to have 6 years of drought. In the low water studies on the Cowichan aquifer, it goes up, it goes down in the summertime, it's back in the wintertime. In the very worst cases, it still comes back. So we're not, contrary to what's being promoted and claimed by the national water people sneaking around at your farms, shutting your wells down, those guys. Shouldn't be a problem here. It's a management problem, it's not a total volume problem. I need is there anybody here who actually knows Brian Dennison personally? we need to actually dig some of the stuff out of him. I've had no luck with the CDRD command center. There's some old stuff maybe in Duncan Hall, but we actually need to get a grip on the toxic landfill that's running into Cowichan Bay from the Cooks Island River. So I can talk to Ruth and see if I can get a connection. I didn't think I could cold call him and get what I needed from him.
That dump leaches right into the Cowichan River. You don't even have to go to the bay. It's right on the cliff overlooking the river, and every water board in the area ignores it. They won't talk to you about it, they won't do anything about it.
It goes in the Cooks Island, doesn't it? Or is it going to Cowichan?
It goes in the Cowichan, I can see it.
Talking by the Crofton Pump House?
Yeah, no, if you go to
It's next to the gravel
Road,
pit.
Banks Road, and you look over that railing, you can see that dump on the river. You can see the big machines working.
There's a provincial election next year coming up. Awesome.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about the finances of Lands Trust, and something was given to us here tonight. Paper Excellence has just donated $50,000 to Lands Trust and sorry about that. And my trust words, I'm not trusting them too much. Anyway, Paper Excellence got how much, Joyce, from the provincial government to bail them out and get them
January
going?
26th in our Citizen Paper front page, they said $19 million to help Cattle's Crofton Mill. $4.5 million from the BC NDP was contributed of our money to a private corporation, and $14.3 million by the federal Liberals and the federal NDP. So $18.8 million, in fact, given to Paper Excellence to save 100 jobs. And you talked to those guys like I did the other night, and a whole division hasn't been working for like 5 months. So Paper Excellence bought 3 mills in Canada in 2019. They're part of Asia Pulp and Paper, Indonesian owner, whatever, and we are not supposed to be investors or shareholders, I don't think, in a pulp mill. I don't know about you, but Nature's Trust. Oh, and at the same time, Paper Excellence said they put in $50 million of their own money. They were going to retool their manufacturing, something to do with single-use plastics or something. They put in $50 million, they said themselves, and they contributed to the salmon enhancement program somewhere too. Paper Excellence. So they're very generous with our money. Yeah.
Okay, so we have enough time for one more question. Shane, if you want to finish it off, seems like you're the last one question. So I'll just finish off your question, sir.
So quickly, natural resources or the water police, as some have come to know them, I don't fully understand what their rights are to come onto your land, what the farmers' rights are. Does somebody here really understand that well, and can they educate those of us who are unaware? Because I have a pretty strong feeling that, especially after Bill 31 having been passed, that next year, this year was a feeler for them, next year is going to be big, and oncoming years.
Throw a chain over their truck and drag it off the tractor. That's it. Everyone gets together and we do that.
Well, we might have to, but
Water storage.
does anyone truly understand their rights and the farmers' rights? Because there seems to be a lot of ambiguity and lack of knowledge.
I don't know if I need a mic or not. The people who are coming on your land are there because you give them permission to be there. If somebody from Natural Resources come on your property, the first thing you can do is ask them to leave. They're on private property. If you're going to mark your property, you can't just put private property, you have to also put private land. Because property is only what's above the land. Land is what's under the land as well, which is your water. Okay, so you have to post private property, private land. When they come on your property, you can ask them to leave. You can talk to them outside the gate. First thing you can ask them is, I want to see your authorization to be here. So all you do is ask, you can be respectful, you say, I want to see your authorization to be here. I can pretty much guarantee they won't have that authorization. And then so if they don't
have the paperwork, they have no cause to be there. If they have complaints from other people, they have to have copies of those complaints with them. So the first thing is to keep them off your land. Put up your gates, put up your private property, private land, and under private property and private land, they have to give you 2 weeks written notice to come on your property. So they have to notify you that they're coming. And you don't have to let them on, right? If you want to let them on, you can. The other thing you need to know is that if you're getting a water license, you've just given the government your water rights. So that's why I say you've given them permission to be there because you've already bought their product, right? You're a registered. You've registered your well, which gives them your water rights. But mostly, ask for the paperwork. Ask for identification. Ask for authorization. And if they don't have it, say you can't come back until they have it. And tell them they have to provide the paperwork. They have to provide the proof. You know, they're coming on people's farms and going, you're part of this waterway or you're part of this watershed. Prove it. Right? They have the burden of responsibility to substantiate everything they're doing, and you don't have to allow them on your property. Okay, it's as simple as that. It's because we think that we're powerless that we don't do anything. But we're not powerless. It's our land, it's our property, it's our wells, it's our water. And we know how well governments are at managing things. To get them to manage your water, and now they want to try managing the air, and they want to manage the land. You know, they want you to get rid of all your animals. It's taxes, and the whole thing is just so insane. So a lot of this has to do around which jurisdiction you're playing in. And there's two basic jurisdictions to law: public jurisdiction and the private jurisdiction. So you can do a process to move out of the public with your property. You can put your property in a trust. If you have a property in your trust, you've just moved your property into a higher jurisdiction. And the municipal laws don't apply. Provincial laws don't even apply because it's a different legal jurisdiction. So there's lots of remedy for property owners, but you have to get over your fear of government, the fear of police. Just look at that word, police.
I'm going to interrupt. I'm very sorry. It's very interesting what you're saying. I don't want to be rude, but we're going to start clearing up the night. I see some people getting ready to go. I'll give you 30 seconds, sir, if you want to just add on one quick comment.
So the one thing you also need to realize is that the people who issue the water licenses are the same people that employ the natural resource officers. So when they came to all, including the place where we live, in Glenora, they already knew that properties either did or have had a history of having commercial enterprise on the land, therefore you need a water license. So they know we don't have a license. They don't know whether it's commercial or not. They know that Katie and John didn't. They know that the chicken farmer there didn't, because they're the ones that issued the goddamn license. So they're just a bunch of frickin' enforcement brutes. They're not police. They're the Stasi. You need to know they're the Stasi. If you know what the Stasi is, look it up.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate your comment. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Payton just for some final remarks.
Thank you, and thanks for your comments about accessibility to your farmland. I want you to know that there's a video that's unbelievable. It's called Stolen Water, Part 1 and Part 2. It was filmed up in Westwold on the Salmon River this summer. And as I said, there was a packed community hall on 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning on a long weekend of irate ranchers and farmers up there telling their story. And this story goes to Courtney area, it goes to Ken Ellison, all the people in this area that had people dressed, you know, in basically police uniforms with flat jackets and guns on them, invading your property and telling you, they even brought an engineer along up in Westwold who was trying to monkey in pump houses and shut down their pivot irrigation reels that didn't exactly know what they were doing. So it's a real, like, this has become some kind of a weird police state with these guys packing guns, coming onto farmers' farms and ranchers and telling them you have to quit irrigating. And I mean, that's where the money is with some of these guys at the end of the summer with their alfalfa crops up in Westwold, which is probably the best alfalfa growing area in British Columbia. And I mean, they lost an entire crop if they have to shut down their irrigation at the end of August.
Thank you for your close remarks, and I highly actually encourage you to go check out the video that you mentioned. It was really good. I didn't watch it myself. It was phenomenal. So before I conclude, I just want to pass on as well. Ruth has some letters to the CEO of the Agricultural Land Reserve, Kim Grau. So if you do want to sign one and just get one to help the initiative, please go see Ruth afterwards. She'll take care of all the legwork afterwards. You can quickly sign it. And absolutely, I just want to conclude by thanking you all for coming tonight's second town hall for the Landkeepers Society. You know, I just want to leave off with one quick note. We all need to get involved in order to protect the health of our communities, so we can grow our province and our country into the thriving and resilient nation we envision. It is not enough to solely rely on the efforts of a few. Rather, it requires the collective commitment of each and every individual. Our communities are building blocks of a strong and healthy province. And by actively participating in initiatives like this one brought forward by the Landkeepers Society, we contribute to the overall prosperity and strength of our nation. Okay, so I thank you again for coming out tonight. Much appreciated. And if you do wish to volunteer with the Landkeepers Society, please go see Savannah or go see Aaron. And once again, thank you so much.